Hello and welcome to another video in Polish grammar series. And in this video we'll be talking about the nominative case, also known as the dictionary form. So since it's the pretty much basic form of the nouns, there won't be any hard rules to remember regarding the endings. It will be mostly just a reminder or refresher of concepts from previous videos, but there will be some new information as well, okay? So even though it might seem like everything was already covered, just trust me and stick until the end, okay? Okay. So starting off with what is the nominative case? It is Mianownik in Polish, okay? It's the first case and it is basically the dictionary form, so the most basic fundamental form of a noun, pronoun, or adjective, okay? And whenever you want to look up a word or just translate one noun from English to Polish, like cat, dog, table, chair, whatever, this is the form you will find the word in the dictionary, okay? So it is also the subject case, and by that we can mean that its primary job is to identify the subject of a sentence. So basically the person or thing that is performing the action in that sentence, okay? So the key questions, the nominative case answered the questions who and what. So who for people and sometimes animals, if we consider the animals as really personal family members, right? And what for objects, concepts, and general animals, okay? So if you're not sure what does the questions mean, just go back to the previous video. And yeah, so basically now we will just go over a quick refresher of the noun's gender. And we have to keep remembering that in Polish, every noun has a particular gender. It is not that it does not mean anything semantically. It's just an inherent feature of that noun, okay? Just every noun is either masculine or feminine or neuter, okay? It does not mean anything in particular. It's just what they are. Yep. So, most masculine nouns end in a consonant in Polish. So for example, dom, stół, student, pies, okay? House, table, a male student, or a dog, okay? They all have consonants at the end. So most masculine nouns as well end in a consonant. It is the pretty straightforward rule. However, there are of course a few exceptions. For example, mężczyzna, mężczyzna, or tata, tata, man or dad, have an A ending but are grammatically masculine. What does it mean that a particular noun is grammatically masculine or feminine or neuter? Well, this particular gender determines how we are supposed to formulate the appropriate adjectives, or how are we supposed to. Basically, it tells us what kind of endings we should expect for a particular noun, okay? So even though the word mężczyzna has a at the end and dom has a consonant at the end, since they are both grammatically masculine, okay, then we have to, if we want to provide particular adjective, for example, a nice man or a nice house, then we have to use a masculine form of that adjective, okay? Since the noun is masculine, we have to convert all of the other parts in the sentence to be also compatible with the masculine noun, okay? I hope that makes sense. So, another gender is, of course, a feminine, and the vast majority of feminine nouns end with an A. So, for example, kobieta, książka, lampa, herbata. So a woman, book, lamp, or tea. And of course, there are some exceptions that end in a consonant. So for example, not or mysz. And again, the same concept applies here. You have to know if you have to know the gender of the noun, because when not or lampa is used in a sentence and it is a feminine noun, then the adjective that is used to describe this noun will also be in a feminine form, okay? Or the noun itself, when it goes through the case system and you want to make the noun ingenitive, accusative, instrumental, it will also depend on the gender of that noun, okay? So, basic rule, when you learn Polish nouns, just know the gender as well, okay? And it is pretty much similar in other European languages, such as, in German, Spanish, French. You should probably also learn the articles, ella, der, die, das. You know the drill, okay? And the last gender is neuter. So neuter nouns most commonly end in o, e, or sometimes as well. Yep. So examples include okno, dziecko, miasto. These end in o. Window, child, or city. Słońce, mieszkanie. Sun, apartment. Imię, zwierzę, name, or animal. Okay? So these are the three genders. Just, learn nouns with the appropriate genders. That's all. But now the new information that I have not told you before, as far as I'm aware, I guess, that in Polish there are in fact the two plural forms. Okay? What does that mean? Well, there is one form which is called, I guess, viral. I'm not sure, so I'm going to refer to it as masculine personal. So basically, it's used only for groups that include at least one man, okay? So it has to be something like students, teachers, doctors, Poles, so basically any group regarding the occupation, group of people, right? And everything else, such as female-only groups of people, children, animals, objects, concept, whatever, it will be the non-masculine, okay? I hope it makes sense. So basically, when you have a group of 4 men, 4 dudes, it is masculine. When you have a group of 4 women, 4 females, it is non-masculine. When you have a group of 2 men and 2 women, so a mixed group, it is what? It is masculine, okay? So if it includes at least one man, it's already considered to be a masculine group. Okay? Okay. So, the non-masculine plurals are usually the default ones, well, because as we've seen earlier, it is used for everything apart from these narrow groups of people. So the most common endings are Y or I. So for example, when you have a single woman, it changes to kobiety. So women, kobiety. Single lamp, lampa. Plural, lampy, lampy. Okay? And it is for feminine nouns. Then we have a neuter nouns. Okay? So for example, a singular okno, okno. Plural is okna, okna. Then we have a singular miasto, miasto. And the plural is miasta, miasta. And for some masculine nouns as well, dom, singular house, dom, dom, plural, domy. Singular pies, dog, pies, plural, psy, psy. Okay? Now, important. When we talk over here about genders, so for example, the groups that include one man, it is not the same thing as feminine, neuter, or masculine gender of a noun. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, as we've seen earlier, this word, which means dad, okay? Or actually, let's change the word because it actually proves my point, or proves the wrong point. So we have a word dom, which means a house, right? So it is masculine. This noun is a masculine noun, okay? So you might somehow think that, well, since it's a masculine noun and we have a masculine plural nouns, so it can belong to the first group, right? Nope. It's used for the male groups of people, okay? Not for masculine nouns in general, but for actual groups that include, well, a man, okay? So that's why masculine nouns can also belong to this particular category, okay? Like the non-masculine one. I hope it makes sense. And then the second group, this is the more complex and has several possible endings and usually involves some form of a sound change. You could have seen that in previous videos as well. So for example, when you have a male student, when you want to clarify that we're talking about a group of male students, we have studenci. So what if we had only female students, you might ask? Well, in that case, it would be studentki. Yep. Exactly. So there is a difference. And so studenci, again, studenci, if the group contains at least one male student, studenci. If there are only female students, studentki. Studentki. Okay? Same with doctors. So a singular lekarz. When you have multiple lekarze. Okay? So when we have a group of female doctors. Let me, oh my god, cooperate please, okay? You could kind of say lekarki. Okay? When you have a Pole, like a citizen of Poland, okay? In the plural, in a singular, Polak. And in plural, Polacy. So in general, when talking about our whole population, you can talk about Polacy because it usually involves, well, men. But if you want to talk about women, then you have Polki. And pan or Mr. Sir, Mr., gentleman, something like that. In plural would be panowie. Okay? So, and women or would be considered panie. So, kind of a plural of ma'am. I'm not actually sure what it is in English. So, yeah. So now, going back to the nominative case, the two primary roles are as the subject of a sentence, okay? So basically, who is it? This is my brother. To jest mój brat. So, this is a standard dictionary form of a word brother. Since brother is the subject, brat is the subject, it answers kto. Okay? So, in other words, when you have the English sentence, this is my, and you had a blank over there. Okay? Then you can kind of think about it. Okay, so what questions does my noun need to answer for me to put it in the blank? Okay? So, this is my what, for example, right? If we want to provide an object, this is my what. So that's for the objects. Or when you talk about person, this is my who. Like who? My mom, my sister, my brother, who? Okay, so this is what these questions regarding the cases mean, okay? So when you have a blank and we want to include a noun, we have some helper words, okay, yeah. This is my, and then we need to put a noun in a case that answers these questions, okay? Because this just makes sense. We don't want to say, this is my of what? This is my of what? What? It doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. This is my of what? No, it doesn't make sense. Boom. This does make sense. So that means we need to put a nominative form, meaning a dictionary form. Okay? So just brat, brother. Okay? I hope it makes sense. Okay, another example. Co leży na stole? What is lying on the table? And we can answer książka leży na stole. So a book is lying on the table. So the same as previously, we can have a blank over there. So blank is lying on the table, right? Well, what kind of questions we can put over there? So if we had of what, again, it kind of doesn't make sense, right? Of what is lying, of what? No. With what? No. With what is lying? No. It doesn't make sense at all. So like whom or something? Whom? No, it's just who is lying on the table or what is lying on the table. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So again, we have to put a noun in a form, in a case that answers these questions. So who or what? So that means the nominative case is used here, okay? So it will be just a book or book, książka. It's dictionary form, okay? So książka is the subject and it answers co or yeah, or what in English. So some other examples. Nowy student czyta. The new student is reading. Again, if we were to blank this, or even including the adjective, just focusing on the noun, right? The new blank is reading. The new what? Or the new who, right? Or who, the new who? The new student, the new brother, the new teacher, the new who? The new what is reading, right? So nominative must be used here. Piękne miasto jest daleko. The beautiful city is far away. Again, the beautiful what is far away. The beautiful who is far away. Again, nominative must be used here. The students are going to the university. Again, if we were to blank this, who are going to the university? Who? Or what are going to the university? What? Okay. And it is also there is also the masculine personal plural noun here, since studenci, again, it already tells us that there is at least one male student in the group, okay? If it were to be only female students, it would be studentki, okay? And the last one, dobre psy biegają w parku. The good dogs are running in the park, okay? Again, blank this one out, and we had the good blank are running in the park. The good what are running in the park. The good who are running in the park. The boys, girls, dogs. Okay? So that's why it is also a nominative case. It is also the basic subject. The thing is doing something, or the who is doing something. There you go. And the other usage of the nominative case is after the verb to be. So basically form of identification. And there are two important things right here. First of all, this sentence. Warszawa to stolica Polski. Warsaw is the capital of Poland. Okay? So, first of all, to just clarify the nominative thing, again, if we were to blank this word out, blank is the capital of Poland. So, what is the capital of Poland, or who is the capital of Poland? Of course, who doesn't make particular sense, but you can see that this noun, the dictionary form, does answer this blank pretty well, okay? So something is the capital of Poland. Now, important thing, there is actually, this thing is actually not considered a sentence in Polish. It is considered grammatically valid. It is grammatically valid, okay? And people say this kind of things all the time, but it is not an actual sentence. Why is it not? Well, because to in Polish is directly means it. It or this. Okay? And there is no to be present in this, well, so to be sentence, okay? This thing directly translates to Warsaw, it, capital, Poland. Warsaw, it, capital, Poland. Okay? So you could consider that maybe there is some form of a hidden to be present in this sentence. So Warszawa to jest stolica Polski. Warszawa to jest stolica Polski. Okay? So this to be is kind of hidden. We don't need to include it. And people, you know, regular Polish folks might find this particular version of this sentence to be unnatural. Okay? So including jest, it would be a valid sentence, but since there is no verb, it is not a sentence. But this form is considered to be a more natural. Yeah, so basically you can do stuff like X to Y for super short sentences if you want to clarify that something is X, something is something, right? You can just say it in that form. Any noun here and any noun here, okay? X is Y. Okay? So Warszawa to stolica. Warsaw is capital. Okay? So it is not a sentence, but it is like a correct statement, natural form of statement. Okay. Then we have an actual correct statement or sentence because there is to be. So there is verb jest. Mój tata jest inżynierem. My dad is an engineer. Well, if you look closely and if you were to check it, actually the engineer in a nominative case in Polish is inżynier. So hold on, why is there an em? So this is an exception where the instrumental case is actually being used. So this is the actual common pitfall. So for professions or identities with the verb jest, we use the instrumental case. But for some simple identification with to or the this, it, we use nominative case. Okay? So, if you want to say that someone is in a particular profession or is in some form of identity, for example, is from Poland, is American, is English, is Scottish, okay? Then we have to use the instrumental case here. In any other cases, for simple identification or saying this, that, we use the nominative case. So some correct examples, to jest dom. This is a house. Okay, we have again to, which means this or it, is house, so dom in a nominative case. Because this is a who or what answers this particular blank. Okay? And the last two, mój ulubiony kolor to niebieski. My favorite color is blue. Okay? My favorite color is blue. Again, this is not a sentence. Why? Well, because there is no verb here. this means, well, to means this or it in Polish. So there is no jest anywhere. But it is a natural way to say it, okay? That something is something. Again, I told you earlier, this form is pretty common. X, to, Y. So, my favorite color, to, blue. Okay? And, yeah. And basically that's why the color is also nominative. Because my favorite who or what is blue. Right? Piotr to mój najlepszy przyjaciel. Piotr is my best friend. Again, this is not a sentence, but it is a correct example. There is no jest, there is just to, so we again have the form x to y. Again, so we have x to y. Piotr to my best friend. Okay? So again, if we were to blank the Piotr out, something is my best friend. Okay, so who is my best friend or what is my best friend? Okay, so we have to use the form of the noun that is in nominative because these questions make sense for this particular blank. So we put Piotr in nominative. Boom. Which is just the name, but names can also be use declension, which means that they change their endings when changing to a different cases. Okay. That was it about the nominative case. This was the most basic case, but we also covered some pretty weird things about masculine, non-masculine Polish plurals, and also the weird thingy about not including the verb to be. Okay? So I hope that at least I've mentioned something new to you, and see you in the next video.